Welcome to English with Zenko Master. Get ready to learn something new today.
I closed the door softly behind me. The sound of the lock turning felt heavier than usual, like it was locking away something more than just my apartment. I had never left this late before. The hallway was quiet, and my heels clicked as I walked toward the stairs. My suitcase rolled behind me, one wheel slightly squeaky. Thomas had messaged me earlier that day, asking if I was still sure. He said he was still there, still waiting, in case I changed my mind. I read the message 5 times but didn't reply. I couldn't. Not now. I had made my decision. It had taken me almost a year to say yes to Daniel. A year of expensive dinners, promises of a better life, and stories of dreams he claimed we'd share. And now, here I was, walking away from my quiet, comfortable life, from the small apartment filled with memories of simpler days, and heading towards something bigger, something louder, something I thought I wanted. The train station was only 10 minutes away, but every step felt slow, like my body was moving, but my heart wasn't ready. I kept remembering the coffee shop where Thomas and I used to meet every Saturday morning. The corner table, his old wool sweater, the way he always ordered my drink before I arrived. He never asked questions. He just knew. But I told myself those memories didn't mean love. They meant habit, comfort. And I wanted more than that. Daniel lived in a new world, one with city lights, weekend getaways, and people who didn't worry about small things. He told me I belonged in that world, that I just hadn't seen what I was missing, that I needed to stop living small. So I chose him. I chose adventure. Or maybe I chose escape. The train was already waiting when I arrived. I climbed aboard and found my seat. The window was cold against my fingers as I touched the glass and watched the station fade into the distance. My hometown wasn't beautiful. Not really. But it was mine. Every corner, every streetlight, every quiet bookstore had been part of my life. And now I was leaving it all behind. I met Daniel through friends. He was charming from the start, confident, loud, and full of stories. People listened when he spoke. I listened too. At first, it felt exciting, new, like I was finally being seen. Not just the girl with quiet eyes and soft answers, but someone he noticed, someone he wanted. Thomas, on the other hand, had always been there. We met in university. He studied literature. I studied art history. We shared classes, then study notes, then late-night walks home. It was slow, easy. We never called it love, not out loud, but it felt like something more than friendship. Or maybe I only thought that after I lost it. The train moved faster now. Fields passed by in a blur. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Thomas. "Where are you now?" I turned off the screen. Daniel was waiting at the other end. He had sent a car to pick me up. The driver held a sign with my name on it. I smiled politely, got into the back seat, and looked out the window. City buildings started to appear. Big, gray, and full of life. When we arrived at Daniel's apartment, everything was perfect. Clean lines, modern art, large windows. He greeted me with a kiss on the cheek and a glass of wine. He asked about my trip, but not much more. I didn't tell him about Thomas's messages. I didn't tell him how quiet the train ride had felt. We had dinner that night at a place I couldn't afford. Daniel talked about his business meetings and a party he wanted to take me to next week. I smiled, nodded, laughed when I needed to, but my mind kept wandering. He didn't ask how I felt. He didn't notice the way I pushed food around my plate. He didn't ask what I missed about home. In the days that followed, I tried to adjust. I walked the busy streets, shopped in stores that made me nervous, and listened to Daniel plan our future. He wanted me to apply for a job at a design agency he knew. "They'll love you," he said. "You're elegant. You belong here." But at night, when the lights were off and the noise had stopped, I missed the silence. I missed long walks with Thomas. I missed being understood without having to explain. One evening, I stood on the balcony, looking out at the city. Daniel was inside, on a call. I held my phone, staring at Thomas's last message. My finger hovered over the reply button. I wanted to write something. Anything. But what could I say? I think I made a mistake? I don't feel like myself here? I miss you? Instead, I put the phone down and walked back inside. Weeks passed. Daniel was kind but distant. Always busy, always rushing. I started to feel like a background detail in his life. Something he liked having, but didn't look at closely. He complimented my dress, but not my ideas. He introduced me to people, but didn't stay beside me for long. And then, one night, I overheard him on the phone. His voice was sharp, impatient. "No, she's fine. She's still getting used to everything. It's just nerves. Don't worry, she'll settle in. I've got it under control." Under control. That's when something broke inside me. I wasn't a plan. I wasn't a project. I was a person. And for the first time since I arrived, I realized I hadn't made a brave choice. I had made a loud one, and it wasn't the same. I waited until morning. Daniel left early for a meeting. I packed my things slowly, one by one. I didn't cry. I didn't leave a note. I just took what was mine and closed the door behind me. The city looked different that day, less exciting, more distant. I found a small cafe, ordered tea, and sat in the corner. I opened my phone. Thomas's name was still there. I typed. I left. I don't know where I'm going next, but I had to leave. I hit send. Then I waited. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength." Thomas replied an hour later. The message was short. "Where are you? I can come." I sat in that small cafe, holding my phone in both hands. The tea in front of me had gone cold. My suitcase was by my feet, untouched since I walked in. For the first time in weeks, I felt something inside me become calm. Not happy, not yet, but quiet. I sent him the name of the cafe and waited. 20 minutes later, he walked in. He looked the same, but also different. His hair was longer. His coat was older. But his eyes, they hadn't changed. He saw me right away. He didn't smile. He walked over, sat across from me, and waited. I didn't know what to say first, so I looked down and whispered, "Thank you." He didn't ask questions. He didn't speak quickly or act surprised. He just sat there and listened. That was the thing about Thomas. He never made things bigger than they were. He made space for people to be quiet, to feel confused, or even broken. "I left him," I said finally. "I don't know what I'm doing now." He nodded once, but didn't look away. "I thought I wanted that life," I said. "The big city, the fancy clothes, the dinners. I thought I needed something more, but I lost something else on the way. I lost me." He waited. "I don't know if coming back was the right thing either, but it's the only thing that felt real." Thomas looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "Do you want to come home?" I wanted to cry. Not because of the question, but because he still called it home. "Yes," I said. "If it's not too late." He shook his head gently. "It's never too late." We didn't say anything else. He took my suitcase and walked beside me to his car. The ride was quiet. The sky outside was gray, and it had started to rain. I watched the water move across the window, but I didn't feel cold. I didn't feel alone. We arrived at his apartment just before dark. It still looked the same. Small, warm, full of books and soft colors. My painting was still there on the wall. I had given it to him 2 years ago. I never asked if he liked it, but he had never taken it down. He made tea. I sat on the couch and looked around. Everything smelled like memories, like coffee and wood and old paper, like safety. He brought the tea over and sat next to me. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't ask if I would stay or how long. He just said, "You don't have to explain anything tonight. Rest. You're tired." That night, I slept on his couch. I could have taken the bed, he offered, but I didn't want to. I wanted to sleep where the light from the window touched my face in the morning, where I used to nap after long walks. It felt like the right place to start again. In the morning, I woke up early. The sun was out, soft and yellow. I sat up slowly. Thomas was already in the kitchen. He handed me a cup of coffee, just how I liked it. No sugar, a little milk. We didn't talk much that day. He went to work, and I stayed in the apartment. I read old books from his shelf. I made toast. I sat on the balcony and watched the people pass by. I didn't rush to find answers. That night we had dinner together. Pasta, simple, quiet. I'm not going back, I said. Thomas looked at me. I didn't think you would. Do you want me to stay? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Only if you want to. I nodded. I think I do. I just don't want to be the girl who leaves again. You're not, he said. You're here. After that, things didn't change all at once. I didn't move in officially. I stayed on the couch for a few more nights. I went out and looked at job boards. I walked through the old streets and visited the bookstore where we used to spend hours. Some people remembered me. Some didn't. But it didn't matter. I started drawing again. At first, only in the evenings. Then in the mornings, too. I hadn't touched a pencil in months while I was with Daniel. He didn't like mess. He didn't like quiet time. He liked movement, plans, schedules. I had forgotten what it felt like to sit in silence and watch a drawing come to life. One afternoon, Thomas came home early. I was sitting on the floor, surrounded by papers. You're smiling, he said softly. I forgot I could, I answered. He sat beside me. We didn't touch. We didn't need to. Later that week, we walked past our old cafe, the same one where he used to wait for me on Saturdays. I stopped. Do you want to go in? I asked. He smiled. Always. We sat at our usual table. The waitress remembered us. She brought my drink without asking. I kept coming here, Thomas said. Even after you left. Why? Because hope is a strange thing, he said. It doesn't always make sense. I looked at him. Did you hate me? No, he said. But I missed you in ways I didn't know were possible. I was scared, I admitted. Of being small. Of missing out. I thought you were too safe. I didn't see that safety isn't the same as boring. Sometimes it's everything. He reached across the table and held my hand. We all make wrong choices. The important thing is that you came back before it was too late. Do you think it's too late? I asked. He squeezed my hand gently. No. I think this is just the middle of our story. And for the first time in a long time, I believed that too. We didn't speak much that morning. The light in the apartment was soft, and the sound of birds came through the window. I sat at the small kitchen table with my coffee, watching the steam rise. Thomas was reading, not far away. It felt like nothing had changed, and everything had changed at the same time. I still didn't know what came next. But for once, I wasn't trying to escape that feeling. Later that day, I took a walk through town. It had been months since I'd last walked those streets without rushing or hiding. I passed the bookstore where Thomas had once bought me a collection of poems. I passed the small bench near the lake where I used to sit and draw. The wind was cold, but it didn't hurt. I felt steady. I didn't need answers today. I only needed to keep moving. That night, as I folded my coat and placed it by the door, Thomas asked if I had thought about going back to the city. His voice was calm, not pushing, just open. I told him the truth. I didn't feel like I belonged there. Not with Daniel. Not with that version of myself who thought noise was the same as meaning. He nodded, as if he already knew. I didn't feel like I had to explain more. Over the next few weeks, I began helping at the local community center. They offered free art lessons to children on weekends, and they needed extra hands. I wasn't sure at first. I hadn't taught before. But the moment I stepped into that room full of color and noise, something in me lit up. The children didn't care about my past. They didn't know who I had been. They just wanted to paint, to learn, to be seen. I knew exactly how that felt. Thomas started coming to my classes sometimes, not to join, but to sit in the back and read. The children liked him. He helped clean up after. We walked home together after each class, quietly, without pressure. It was the kind of silence that felt full, not empty. One afternoon, as we walked home, I stopped in front of our old cafe, the one where we had sat every Saturday morning for years. The table near the window was empty. I looked at him and said I wanted to go in. He opened the door without a word. We sat at that table again, and the waitress still remembered our usual orders. I hadn't tasted that drink in months, and the first sip nearly brought tears to my eyes. It wasn't the drink. It was the memory of a time when I had been seen without asking. Sitting there, I looked at him and thought about all the things I had misunderstood. I had mistaken comfort for boredom. I had mistaken quiet love for a lack of passion. I had walked away from something whole, thinking I could find something better. But better isn't always louder or bigger. Sometimes better is quiet mornings, shared laughter, someone who knows how you take your coffee without asking. That night, I didn't sleep on the couch. I lay next to him, my hand resting gently on his. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I was there, not as someone passing through, not as someone half full of regrets. I was there as myself. Weeks turned into months. I found more teaching work. I started selling small prints of my drawings online. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I had something to wake up for, something to believe in. I began waking up early just to sketch before the sun came in through the windows. Thomas would make coffee. The radio would play quietly in the background. Our life wasn't exciting, but it was real. Then one day, I got a letter. Not an email. A real letter. It was from Daniel. Short. Cold. He said he hoped I was well and that he was returning some books I'd left behind. They arrived in a box a few days later. I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I just opened the box, placed the books on the shelf, and went back to making dinner. Thomas asked who had written. I told him the truth. He nodded. That was all. I realized then how different this kind of love was. With Daniel, I had always felt like I had to prove myself, to keep up, to be someone shinier, faster, more interesting. With Thomas, I was allowed to be tired, to be slow, to be human, and still be loved. One evening, as I folded laundry and listened to the sound of Thomas in the kitchen, I thought about the word home. It wasn't about a place or a room. It was about being known, being held, even in silence, being seen in the in-between spaces where most people don't look. We had a quiet dinner that night. After, we sat on the balcony wrapped in a blanket. The air smelled like rain. The town lights shimmered in the distance. I leaned against him and thought of all the years we had almost had. All the mornings I had spent trying to chase something that didn't exist. I felt sad for the time I had lost. But I also felt grateful that life had circled me back to where I belonged. I told him that. Not in big words, but in the way I touched his hand. In the way I let my head rest on his shoulder. He didn't speak. He didn't move. But I knew he understood. And when I finally fell asleep that night, I dreamed of us walking along the lake, of children painting with bright colors, of coffee cups and crooked art on walls, of a life that didn't need to be fixed, only lived. I had left him once. I had chosen a man who promised excitement, but gave me emptiness. I had walked away from someone who had always waited, always listened. But now I knew. Love isn't about choosing someone who makes your heart race. It's about choosing someone who stays when the world feels too heavy. Someone who doesn't need to be the hero. Someone who lets you be soft. Thomas never said, "I told you so." He never asked me to explain the months I had been gone. He never made me feel like I owed him something for staying. That, more than anything, was love. I had chosen the wrong man, but love had chosen me again. Quietly, kindly, fully.